Hello everyone. Today we have a very interesting episode about one of the largest scale projects we've done in the entire history of our company. And despite the fact that we are actively developing in the American market and we have quite a lot of construction sites and large projects here, nevertheless, our origins are in Eastern Europe, specifically in the country of Belarus. We also have many projects currently in development there, with some already at the construction stage. And one of them is this unique settlement, consisting of 37 completely different houses, where a huge construction project is now underway. Since I am based in the United States and responsible for this region, I'd now like to hand things over to my colleagues who are currently on site and working on the implementation of this unique residential community. They will share more details with you.
Well, friends, this is Alexey. He's a real estate agent, and now we're going to walk through the construction site together. So a client came to us. He had one large plot of land. In essence, this territory is a huge ravine. And the elevation change here is about 171 feet. When we first saw it, we thought it was completely crazy, but it's a forest, a ravine. And you start wondering, where are you even supposed to build here? How do people usually deal with plots like this? They cut them into terraces, build fairly large retaining walls, and clear the site? When we started working on the concept, our goal was to preserve the natural landscape as much as possible. First, we digitized the entire site. We carried out a topographic survey of the elevations and marked the locations of all the trees. We created a digital model first, then mapped out the paths where things could realistically fit. They ended up being pretty steep, but overall we followed the topography to figure out where it made sense to place them, and we identified the building plots. In the end, we landed on 37 plots. That's how the idea of 37 houses came together. It wasn't that the client specifically wanted that number. He had a total area requirement tied to a business project. We just had to stay within that limit, and that's how the concept of 37 unique residences was born.
So each one is completely different?
Every single one is different. No two are the same.
So they're different both in layout and in the facade design?
Exactly. What's more, each one has its own name, its own concept, and a set of distinct features. So every house is unique.
Well, that's a titanic amount of work. I don't know how much.
It's a huge and complex job. I'd even say it's something of an adventure in a way, right?
You know, I've always been pretty skeptical about projects like this because they almost never get built.
Yeah.
Exactly. But now I've come here and I see construction is underway, concrete is being poured, roofs are being built. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the finished result, of course. And tell me, how closely do you think the final result will match the expectations set by the visualizations?
You know, I ask about that every single time I visit. Even today I came and said that stream looks a little small, it's bigger in our render. And they said, no, you see the stakes, we're going to widen it. So everything had to align perfectly. When we were designing it, we really went all in. We created a BIM model, and since we had every single tree marked, we replicated it exactly in the visualization. So the tree in the visualization is exactly the same as the one in real life. The view from the window, when we designed the interior, perfectly replicates the actual view from the site. So absolutely everything should be realized exactly as it was designed, without any deviations. In practice, our influence is limited. We're simply the architects. However, from what I can see so far, things are unfolding exactly as intended.
Well, it's just that sometimes, you know, they design the architecture to be beautiful, right? But then they start dividing the windows, changing the roof. So it's all very close to the future reality, right?
Here, you have to thank our clients. They really respect the architecture and are building it exactly one-to-one. Well, you can see the process here, and in general, the houses are already taking shape. You can see their perspective, see how they interact with the trees, how they curve around them and fit into the slope and landscape. And here we have an interesting staircase, but it's like an art object. The whole idea was to create an illusion. When you first approach the house from a distance, you can't tell the staircase has a slope. You only see these lines, you know, across the surface.
Oh, I see. So it's part of the facade, basically.
Yeah, like it's a part of the facade. Just some strange lines, like a sculpture. It's not clear what it is. When you get closer, they come together to form a staircase. And the whole idea is that when a person walks up, they don't see a wall. A tree will be growing there. There's a special niche made for it, right?
Well, you guys are fans of all that stuff.
Yes. We're fans of a kind of, you wouldn't exactly call it Japanese architecture. We just call it natural minimalism. And this is actually a great example. The house itself is pretty minimalist, but there are these pockets of nature that cut right into it. Right? So a person approaches, sees this composition with a beautiful tree, a couple of stones, and then enters the house. So we always work with the experience, what a person sees when they approach the house. They see the cantilever, walk up the stairs, and then enter the house. Here's another interesting house. You drive in under this canopy and right away you see the trees. You get a full view of nature straight through.
Will there be glass? I mean windows.
No glass?
It's just a canopy.
It's literally a carport. You know, we can actually go in there.
Yeah, it's great they gave us these rubber shoe covers. I'm not afraid on the construction site.
Here you can see the ground level mark. Of course, it'll be raised, so it'll end up flush with the driveway.
Right.
And, well, in my opinion, it's very impressive.
Exactly.
By the way, it's a bit noisy here because construction is very active and we can't stop it.
We're not going to stop it.
Yeah, we'll show everything as it really is. Yeah, and this house is interesting because there's a stream running below, and this stream will be widened. The stakes are already in place. And there will be a cascade of several waterfalls here. The future homeowner will have a gazebo on the other side of the property. It's big, 2 stories, really beautiful, and it kind of interacts with the house architecturally. And there will be a concrete path that leads over to that gazebo.
Wow. So it goes straight along the slope, right? You still have to walk down a bit? Yeah.
So on this floor, you have the public areas, of course. The kitchen is on this side. You know, if the client comes in with groceries, they can just unload everything straight into the kitchen. Yeah, and it's kind of a bit separated, giving a little privacy. Then over here, you have the living room and dining area, all connected but still nicely defined.
And you have this just gorgeous view of the greenery.
The view is cosmic, just cosmic. And notice,
For a lot of people, this is the dream, having a place like this with no neighbors, just your own space. Yeah, your gazebo is over there. You know, I really like this idea with the gazebos because you're in it looking at the house, yeah. And you're like, damn, life is good, huh?
I also want a gazebo near my house, just to admire the house, really, yeah.
Right.
And in general, when, you know, there's a big get-together, right? So as not to get in each other's way, the guys can go off and cook at the barbecue while the women relax and sunbathe on the terrace, and they don't bother each other at all. There will actually be another extension here. So this isn't the full extent of the terrace yet. On this reverse contour...
So this is the terrace.
This is the terrace. The glazing will be here, right?
Awesome.
There will also be pylons here, and this whole span is over 100 feet. So structurally, it wasn't that easy to do without support. And actually, the structures used here aren't something you'd see in just any private house. This is a whole community of houses, and each one is unique. Plus, they're all set at different elevations. And, well, the structural designs used here are very complex, of course. We called the project Ecopolis. Why? Well, first of all, only a minimal number of trees are cut down, and the houses are designed with the landscape in mind. Second, the greenery is integrated into the facades of these houses in various ways. And third, because there's a well-developed system of parks here. There are 2 parks. So for these 37 houses, there are 2 parks. The total area of the parks is about 17 acres. There's a park with activities, playgrounds, sports fields, and a sort of clubhouse for teenagers where they can hang out. And there's a second park. If the first park is for all the residents to communicate, right? Because, you know, mothers take their kids to the playground and get to know each other. The second park is for solitude in nature. There aren't really any noisy spots around here except maybe the amphitheater. The amphitheater is a place where you can watch a movie together with the other residents. But mostly it's a space for meditation. You can walk in the forest there, go hiking. There are these observation decks that we designed. Basically, it's untouched nature there. Yeah. So if you just imagine that, you know, 37 residences, 2 parks, hiking trails, there's a main path that goes through the whole community. It's made of wood, so it's really pleasant to walk on like a forest eco trail. And this is in addition to the fact that every road will also have sidewalks. So you can walk on the sidewalk or you can walk on this forest trail.
Right now on the market, conceptual communities of this kind, well, they aren't being created, or there are literally just a few of them, right? Yeah, and of course, this will always be valuable. I'd say you could consider our Ecopolis trophy real estate, despite its location and all the other factors. This is the kind of thing that will hold its value for decades. And of course, I just wish there were more communities like this.
Hey everyone, Mark here. Behind me you can see a beautiful house. And as you can see, it's not the only one, which means we're at the Ecopolis ESSENCE. We've come here to check on the construction progress. Many of the houses have already taken on their final forms, so we can now fully appreciate the original design concept. Some of the houses already have their glazing installed, which, in my opinion, is the most impressive and technologically refined solution we've ever had the chance to implement in our projects. especially on such a massive scale. Let's go take a look at what's new, and while we're at it, we'll talk about our favorite technical details. All right, so we're on the main street, and I'd like to start this brief tour by going over the residence numbers. For me, as an architect, they have what I'd call a lucky numbering system. This is residence number 2. It features an impressive architectural cantilever and an exterior staircase that's subtly concealed behind a retaining wall. It also serves as one of the dominant elements in the street perspective. To my left is house number 34. The numbering goes in a circle, like a spiral, you could say. And this is actually one of my favorite projects. This residence features the concept of an inner garden. So behind this monolithic wall, you first find a full-fledged exterior garden. It's not even an atrium. It creates a pass-through effect for the rooms on the lower ground floor. So in fact, even though the house is built on a slope, this concept avoids creating a solid windowless wall. And of course, the rotation of the 2 floor slabs relative to one another gives the design a distinctly charismatic character. To my right is residence number 3. Its design principles are ideologically similar to those of house number 2. It's essentially our ode to the architectural ensemble. But here we have a little teaser for today's video. The translucent structure for the corner window has been installed. And here we can already see the key principles being materialized. So in addition to the architectural concept, there's incredible technological sophistication and an uncompromising adherence to the original design. For that, as an architect, I have to give special respect to the developer. To my left is house number 33 with what looks like a window, although it's not actually going to be a window. It's an opening that leads to a 2-story atrium. A bit later, we'll show you the amazing high-tech glazing solutions that will be used there. And the panoramic glazing has already been installed, facing the inner courtyard toward those famous views of our gazebos, which are also under construction. Residence number 4 is for some very good people. Soon you can expect our collaboration, where we'll tell you more about this project. It's very effectively hidden with its low-slung silhouette. In the hill, this is achieved by integrating the lower level into the landscape. Closing off the perspective of this street to my left are residences number 15 and 16. Look at this insane foundation pit that's been dug for house number 16. The earth slope is being reinforced with these powerful driven pipes. Soon, one of the main showcase houses of the entire project will be built here. And to see what it might look like, its counterpart is right nearby. It's not an identical twin. House number 15 is very similar, but with a different layout. It's already standing in its complete form, just waiting for the installation of the glazing and facade systems. So it's fully realized and already dominates its own landscape. We could, and definitely will, do a full review of each of these houses. For example, this is residence number 5, Insight. I just want to note how gratifying it is to see the implementation fully match the design. And take a look at this huge glass unit. Its parapet section goes right up to the edge of the parapet, flashing, and it also extends to the right, covering the wall to create a glass corner. Now, in addition to being a very effective focal point for viewing the outdoors from inside, it also creates a really cool exterior effect, seemingly cutting off the corner with its reflection. And overall, this glassiness in the forest within a relatively dense development represents a whole new way of perceiving this kind of architecture. Residence number 12, one of my personal favorites. The frame is also completely finished, waiting for glazing. Why is it a favorite? Because the house anchors the corner incredibly well. As an architect, I really love these kinds of urban planning perspectives. Its accentuated corner volume, combined with the fact that the inner courtyard is very private, makes this residence especially distinctive. Residence number 6, where all the panoramic glazing has been installed, our very impressive translucent structures. We'll use it as an example today to take a detailed look at the technical features of the solutions we've chosen. And now I'm approaching our turning area, a small cul-de-sac within the village, so to speak, where a stunning panorama of the residences opens up. There's number 12, number 10, house number 9 with its architectural screen, and residence number 8 with the space reserved for a large translucent structure. It's going to be a single glass unit. And completing our street is residence number 7, and behind it you can see the start, the very beginning of the village, residence number 1 and number 2. As you can see, some trees, of course, had to be cut down as a street will be laid here, but nevertheless, we managed to save all these spectacular fir trees. We just had a thunderstorm, and now we're discussing with the clients how to reinforce the trees so they can remain this way for many decades to come. And now I'd like to invite you into residence number 6, where Alexander, the head of the company that handled the glazing for all the residences, and I will discuss in more detail the technical nuances and features of the solutions we chose. It's going to be very interesting, and there's a lot you can take note of. Friends, we're now in one of the houses on the second floor next to, shall we say, the modest structural joint of the house's corner, which is actually one of the main highlights in the visualizations. I'm here with Alexander, the head of the company Horizon OV. They handled the technical design of the metal structures for all the translucent systems in Ecopolis ESSENCE, right? And the project has a lot of very interesting features. And these huge units with a structural joint, which I was previously told were impossible to make because they would create a sort of bubble effect. And the cantilevered installation and the structural ventilation sashes. So Alexander, I'll let you take it from here. Tell us about the project in general, about some of the technical features. Was it difficult?
Bringing your ideas to life was difficult, but we did it. We created a structural seam here. Here we have a glass unit that's almost 15 feet. Here the light transmission is 60% and the coating is 30%. This creates a comfortable shading effect since the trees don't block the sun. The system we've used here is Schuko. It's a classic post and beam system with special solutions for the cantilevers.
Yes, and if I may add, speaking of the cantilevered installation, this is a situation where the entire structure is essentially located outside the load-bearing part of the building's structural frame. Even though we get this amazing view and create this effect of transparency, letting the exterior flow into the interior and vice versa, it's not an easy thing to do. And it weighs, as I understand it, we're talking about tons here.
Yes, this glass unit weighs 1.1 tons. It requires a specialized suction cup, special equipment. If you look, we had huge problems with the special equipment here. It was impossible to get it close. Thanks to our clients, they are truly amazing because they don't have a mindset of cutting costs. They have the exact same position as we do, to do things with the highest quality. We don't look at the money, we look at the quality and the aesthetics. And that's the most important thing, what's so pleasing about this community.
Let's go see what interesting technical solutions there are.
Let's go.
In this same house, we're now in a different part of the building. It has the same parapet-style structural corner glazing with the same large units. And I mentioned earlier that according to everything I was told by the fabricators I spoke with, you simply can't make 2 large units of this height and size in a structural joint. However, it turns out that in fact you actually can.
Actually, it's true, 2 large glass units create a sort of bubble between them and the glass units diverge. That's why it's impossible to make a quality seam. So in many cases where people try to do this, the seam at the bottom might be, say, about 3/8 of an inch. Here it might be about 5/8 of an inch, and then it goes back to 3/8 of an inch.
From the perspective of facades, architecture and perception, the glazing probably makes up, I don't know, about 50% of the visual appearance. It's the lensing of the units themselves, the profiles, and that certain elegance and lightness. And this smoothly brings me to the fact that everything here uses structural glazing, which we've been talking about. There's a structural corner here. But it seems to me in this house, it has reached its apotheosis, specifically in terms of private home construction. Could you tell us in a bit more detail what a structural corner is, what makes it beautiful? That is, why can one be better or worse? And what difficulties perhaps you faced here? In this case, we executed structural joints
The advantage is that we don't see any elements, any caps. We have drainage channels installed, and the structural joint is perfectly made.
Now, according to our design, this glass cube first of all serves as a focal point for the home's residents. And it's also, so to speak, the corner that anchors the entire street and closes the perspective. Therefore, this effect of a solid, high-quality execution of the glass cube was a very important, subtle detail that, well, in my opinion, was executed perfectly, a 10 out of 10. As you can see, there's still a lot of work to be done. We need to work on the facades, finish the glazing, install the engineering systems, and complete the landscaping. But right now, from the vantage point of this residence, looking at the whole concept, I can see that the vision has been a success. At certain points, I was even a bit worried about the decisions regarding privacy, the architectural look, and let's say the overall cohesiveness of the ensemble. Now I see that it all works. When you see the entire concept brought to life in concrete, it's very striking. So, friends, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for new episodes because it's only going to get more interesting from here. All the best.